All right. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday and welcome to the month of November. My name is Christal Jordan. I am so excited to be here with this Glambitious I Am group because I am always excited to be in the company of successful, progressive, amazing women. I honestly believe in the old adage that states that iron sharpens iron. And so I love finding myself in the company of amazing women that are set to basically conquer the world, right? The future is female, and this group definitely represents that. So, welcome and thank you so much for having me on this amazing platform. You guys go ahead and come in and sit down, and we're going to talk about this conversation based on my new book, which is right here. Dear Alpha Female, it's not him, it's you. Dear Alpha Female, it's not him, it's you. Now, if you are, just to do a little housekeeping before we get started, if you are the type of woman that has always relied on her looks and her body to get what she wants from a man, then this conversation may not be for you, right? Okay. Also, if you are the type of woman who came from humble beginnings and has allowed those humble beginnings to define her and doesn't see herself being able to be successful because of where she came from, this conversation may not be for you. If you are the type of woman that is spending a lot of energy trying to figure out how to get men for their money and get them for their access, do you, sis? But this conversation may not be for you. Now, on the other hand, if you came from humble beginnings, but you did not allow that to stop you, you pulled yourself up, as they say, by your quote unquote bootstraps and have been able to accomplish so much more than you ever dreamed possible, then you're in the right place. Go ahead and sit down, have a seat, right? If you were ever labeled an overachiever, right? If you've been labeled a type A personality, again, this is for you. You're in the right place, my love. You're in the right place, right? If you have taken the opportunities that you've been given and you've been able to rise as an executive, as a small business owner, and you've been able to become someone that is known to be in leadership positions and is constantly finding themselves and winning in business, but not necessarily in love, then I think you are in the right place. This conversation tonight is all about you. And last but not least, if you have ever heard someone say to you, or you may have even said it to yourself, that men that you date or men that you encounter often are intimidated by your presence, or intimidated by your success, or intimidated by all that you've amassed, all the accolades, all the different things that you have, then ma'am, this this is the conversation for you. This is the conversation for you. Ask me, Christal Jordan, how do I know? How do I know the things that we're going to talk about today? Because I am that woman. I have been that woman from the time I was younger. I grew up in a single parent family. My mother was a very hard worker, but from the time I was little, I was always somebody that people would label an overachiever. I got good grades. I was always doing the most, right? If you are one of those women that are like hashtag doing the most, then this conversation is for you. I was definitely one of those women. I went to a school that basically you were allowed entry based on your grades and your extracurricular activities. So I was in the French club. I was in the debate club. I was that girl, like I said, doing the most constantly. But so many of my sisters are. So many women I talk to, I'm surrounded. I have a beautiful tribe of women that are all very accomplished. Some of us come from humble beginnings. Others, may not have. But the very thing that connects us all is that we're hard workers, right? We are not the type of women that sit around and wait for a man to validate us. We are the type of women that are like, well, you know what? If there's no man around, I'm going to do it myself. And I believe that I'm able to do that. And if you're that type of woman, then like I said, this is the conversation for you. This is the tribe for you. But in all that, often I meet so many women that I can relate to as far as being very, very aggressive and independent when it comes to business. But so many have the same story when it comes to love. I myself had that story. I got married early on and was still that overachiever. I worked. I had an amazing job in corporate PR. And then after I moved with my husband here to Atlanta, I was able to find and start an amazing career in entertainment PR, right? So even though I had the husband and I had the children and I had the 2.5 kids and a dog and all that, I was still a really hard worker, right? I've never been one of those women that was okay just staying at home. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but those are not the women I'm talking to tonight. I want to talk to the women that are driven by the desire to be successful, right? That are driven by the desire to go further, right? And that drive is often seen as toxic, is often seen as a negative, right? Often we hear people talking about this idea of Black women especially being so independent, being overly independent, and that being a negative thing. Well, I think we need to have a conversation about it, and me being a person that has gone through that and experienced that and heard all the negative things living in Atlanta, Georgia, trust me, being a single woman that was a business owner in Atlanta, Georgia, I have heard every negative stereotype about an alpha female that is possible. From she can do all this, but she can't get a man. She is too independent. She's too strong. She's too successful. There's so many things that people say when it comes to alpha females. And I am one of those women that felt like, you know what? I like myself. I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I don't want to shrink myself, to be in a relationship. And unfortunately, I often thought that shrinking myself meant doing less, being less of a go-getter, right? And I was getting it all wrong. So in order for us to get into this conversation, this new book is coming out in February because I wanted to celebrate Galentine's Day, not necessarily Valentine's Day, but Galentine's Day in a way of holding sisters accountable. Like, this is a love letter to other women that are like myself, that are overachievers, that have done all this, but find themselves having the same experience when it comes to love, right? And are not sure what that experience is. Is it that the guys are intimidated? Is it that men don't want to be with a woman that has her own? There are so many stereotypes out there. So I wanted to write this book because I was able to go through that process and get some counsel by a woman that I held so much respect for. I had an experience of going on Iyama Fix My Life, and I was definitely checked. I don't know if any of you saw that episode. It was titled Winning in Business, Losing in Love. And trust me, myself and one of my good sisters went on that show along with two other ladies. And what I learned in that is that it wasn't necessarily that the men were intimidated. Actually, it wasn't at all. Let me not be nice. It was not that the men were intimidated. It was not that there was pee in the dating pool. Anybody heard that? There's pee in the dating pool. The men aren't ready. It was none of that. It was actually what I was putting out, I was getting back. And that was resulting in either one of two things. One, I would meet an amazing man. That man would get to know me, and then we would slowly drift apart. I had a very, very clear idea of what I wanted in a partner and how I wanted that to go. And I wasn't really flexible in that. And so when someone didn't meet that, I was very, very quick to fall back. I would actually brag to my girlfriends and say my fallback game is immaculate. And it was so good, in fact, that I ended up single, for over 10 years. My ability to fall back and to not allow a man to hurt me again after being hurt, early on was impeccable. I definitely had a great success rate. Another thing that I saw a lot of my friends and people in similar situations deal with is they would have these standards, right? I want a man that has all this. Their list would be a mile long, and they would end up in a relationship with someone that met none of those standards that they claimed they had. And they would end up settling for so much less than they talked about. And it seemed like women that were successful were either dating bums that were basically trying to use them, or they were interacting with men of value, amazing character, but they just couldn't make those relationships stick. And all in all, even though, we put up a very tough exterior, that's hurtful, right? And I was not happy there. And so that's why I ended up on Fix My Life. That's why I ended up doing the work. And that's ultimately why I wrote this book. And this is because I want other women to understand that we've been told these rumors, these ideas that it's something wrong with us, right? It's something wrong with our drive for success. not necessarily us. It almost makes you feel like because I have this drive, because I have this ambition, there's something wrong with that. Well, I am here to tell you it is not the drive, it is not the ambition that is keeping you single, that is making you unlucky in love. Is something very different. And that's what this book is about. That's what this conversation is about. We can't get to all of that in these first 15 minutes. And so what I want to do with this first conversation that we're doing today is define what created your alpha. Again, what created your alpha personality? If you think about if you've been referred to as an alpha female or a dominant female, right? What things happened? If you could sit back and just get quiet for a moment, because most of us, like I was just like this is just who I am, right? Think a little bit deeper. What created this personality? What created your aggression for business, your tenacity? What happened in your life that created this personality that does show up and is able to win in business? Okay, I'll tell you how mine was created, how my alpha was created. I grew up, as I mentioned earlier, in a single parent family, right? My dad wasn't around. My father actually ended up being addicted to drugs. So he was a non-factor in my life. My mother was a very hard worker, and I had a younger brother. As the oldest child of a single parent family without much family around, there was a lot of pressure on me. I wanted to protect my mom. I wanted to take care of my little brother. My mom would always say, Chris, take care of Aaron, right? That's what I heard. That was the narrative in my head. Chris, take care of Aaron. And actually, Chris decided that she needed to take care of both of them, right? Because I thought growing up not having much, I needed to make sure that I was even better, right? Especially as African Americans, we've been taught that you have to outdo, not only do you have to get straight A's, but you have to be better. So when I would get a paper back, if it was an A, I was angry. I wanted 100. I wanted 110. I wanted extra credit because I wanted to prove that I could be better so that ultimately I could get my family out of the situation that they were in. And that's what drove me. That was the beginning of creating my alpha, right? So not only was my mother by herself, and I felt this intense protective need, fierce protective need to take care of her and to make sure that I didn't inconvenience her anymore because I knew she was going through so much. But also my father, who I later learned was a drug addict, wasn't able to give me love, right? So I automatically learned as a little girl that I needed to do things in order to get love. My love, the love I would receive from other people was based on performance. So that's what I tried to do. I tried to get straight A's. I tried to do extracurricular activities. I was a cheerleader. I wanted to do everything that I could to prove to my father that I was worthy of love, right? So this is all happening and I'm not aware of this. I'm a little kid. I'm growing up, but it's created this personality that believed that if I achieved, the more I achieved, the more my value would go up, right? That sounds very familiar. Sounds very familiar today. So many of us, if you look at Instagram, right? You look at social media, so many of us feel that our worth lies in what we've achieved. I actually heard a woman the other day say, I know I'm the perfect catch. I'm the perfect catch. And it's like, how do you know you're the perfect catch, sis? Well, I have this. I work here. I have my own business. I own properties. So many of us believe our worth and what makes us lovable, what makes us desirable is directly connected to what we've been able to achieve. That is where we learn where your alpha was created. Where was that personality created? Where was that little independent girl with her fist up? What created her, right? And 9 times out of 10, what worked to create her is also working against her later in life, right? I'll say it like this. When you're sick, the doctor will give you medicine, right? He'll give you an antibiotic or a shot, and you take that and it makes you better. However, once you get better, you don't need to keep taking that medicine. So if you're still applying those same ideals to today that created your alpha years ago, chances are there's a problem. Just like if I'm still taking the same steroids, I'm still taking the same antibiotics that I took when I'm sick, after I get to a place where I'm healthy, those things actually start to hurt me. And that to me is the first step of identifying where the disconnect is. I would just say to you, I know I'm out of time, but I would just say to you all out there, please get this book. Please invest in yourself. The same formula that it took to be successful is not the same formula that it's going to take for you to level up and have the love life that you deserve. There's so much more for you out there. Please visit my website, dearalphafemale.com. There's so much more coming. I would love to connect with you. My name is Christal Jordan. I am on Instagram at EnchantedPR, and most importantly, my YouTube channel, From Christal with Love XO, will soon host Dear Alpha Female, Let's Talk, where we're going to have more conversations like this. But today, before you leave, I want you to think about what created your alpha. And once you know what created that, then we can start to add to her so that she has a full, balanced, loving life. I love you all. I look forward to talking to you. I look forward to communing with you soon. Please visit dearalphafemale.com. I will see you guys soon.